In the ever-evolving world of mixed martial arts, controversy is nothing new. But every now and then, a moment hits differently. This is one of those moments. When Ronda Rousey speaks, the entire fight world listens. And in March 2026, she didn't just speak, she shook the foundations of the sport. What started as a routine press conference in Los Angeles quickly turned into a viral storm. The topic? Fighter pay, power, and the future of the UFC. Within minutes, Rousey delivered a calm but devastating critique of how fighters are treated financially. This wasn't loud or emotional. It was precise, calculated, and brutally honest. She questioned why elite athletes would choose MMA when better pay exists elsewhere. And just like that, a debate exploded across the internet. Fans, fighters, and analysts all weighed in. Because this wasn't just any fighter speaking out. This was the woman who helped build the modern era of women's MMA. To understand the weight of her words, you have to understand her legacy. Ronda Rousey isn't just a former champion. She's a pioneer. Before her arrival, women's MMA struggled for recognition. Even Dana White once famously said women would never fight in the UFC. That changed the moment he met Rousey. She didn't just prove him wrong, she changed the entire business. Rousey became the face of the UFC during its explosive growth period, headlining massive pay-per-view events and drawing millions of fans worldwide. Her dominance was undeniable. She finished fights quickly, violently, and often in spectacular fashion. At her peak, she wasn't just winning, she was carrying the sport. Alongside Conor McGregor, she was responsible for a massive portion of the UFC's global success. So when someone like Rousey criticizes the system, it carries a different kind of weight. This isn't bitterness, this is insight from someone who built the stage. At that press conference, Rousey didn't hold back. She stated clearly that the UFC, once the best place to earn a living in combat sports, had now become one of the worst. That single statement alone sent shockwaves. But she didn't stop there. She pointed out something even more alarming. Fighters struggling financially while the company signs billion-dollar deals. She highlighted how some athletes are forced to find income outside the cage, even turning to platforms like OnlyFans just to survive. Think about that for a second. Professional fighters, risking their lives inside the octagon, unable to support their families. Meanwhile, the UFC continues to grow as a global powerhouse. Rousey's argument wasn't emotional, it was logical. Why would young athletes choose MMA when other sports offer better financial security? It's a question that's hard to ignore, and one that exposed a growing concern within the sport. The numbers only made her argument stronger. In 2025, TKO Group Holdings secured a massive $7.7 billion media rights deal with Paramount Global. That's over $1 billion per year in revenue from broadcasting alone. Yet fighters reportedly receive only around 18 to 20% of that revenue. Compare that to leagues like the NFL or NBA, where athletes receive roughly half. The difference is staggering. While bonuses increased slightly, performance bonuses doubling to $100,000, the base pay for most fighters remained largely unchanged. This created a clear disconnect between company growth and fighter compensation. Add in ongoing antitrust lawsuits accusing the UFC of suppressing wages, and the situation becomes even more complex. Suddenly, Rousey's comments didn't sound controversial, they sounded accurate. And that's what made this moment so powerful. She wasn't just speaking, she was exposing something many had been afraid to say out loud. But as expected, not everyone agreed. Valentina Shevchenko responded quickly, defending the modern landscape. She argued that platforms like OnlyFans are simply new ways for fighters to connect with fans, not signs of financial struggle. She also took a direct shot at Rousey, referencing her final loss in 2016. The internet immediately exploded. Fans were divided. Some supported Rousey's stance on fighter pay, while others sided with Shevchenko's perspective. But here's the key detail. While Shevchenko challenged Rousey's example, she didn't fully address the larger issue. Fighter pay remained the central question, and the debate only grew louder. Social media platforms lit up with arguments, breakdowns, and heated discussions. This wasn't just drama. It was a serious conversation about the future of MMA, and it was only getting started. Then came the most unexpected twist of all. After days of silence, instead of responding publicly, the UFC reportedly took quiet action. Rousey's presence began disappearing from official platforms. Hall of Fame mentions were reduced. Digital content was altered. No announcement, no explanation, just silence. For a company built on promoting its legends, this move raised serious questions. Was this a response, a message, or something else entirely? Dana White, known for his outspoken nature, chose not to address the situation directly. And that silence spoke volumes. Because when one of the most important figures in your company's history speaks out, and your response is to erase them, it changes the narrative completely. Suddenly, this wasn't just about pay. It was about power, control, and how organizations handle criticism from within. Rousey, however, didn't back down. Instead, she delivered one final message, short, powerful, and impossible to ignore. She made it clear that while organizations can erase names from websites, they cannot erase history. She reminded everyone that fighters, past and present, are the ones who built the sport. And then she ended with 3 simple words: pay your fighters. That message went viral instantly. Millions of views, thousands of comments. Because it wasn't just a statement, it was a challenge. And it resonated far beyond MMA. It tapped into a broader issue seen across many industries: workers generating massive revenue while receiving only a fraction of it. In that moment, Rousey wasn't just speaking for fighters. She was speaking for anyone who felt undervalued despite their contribution. But while that controversy dominated headlines, another storm was quietly building inside the cage. Rising star Dakota Ditcheva was making waves with her unstoppable performances. Undefeated, explosive, and incredibly composed, she represented the new generation of fighters. When opponent Simone Silva attempted to intimidate her with bold pre-fight statements, the MMA world expected drama. Instead, Dakota responded with calm confidence. No trash talk, no emotion, just focus. And when fight night came, she delivered a masterclass. Precision striking, relentless pressure, and complete control. The result? Total domination. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Dakota didn't need words. Her performance said everything. And just like that, a new star was rising. Then came another major moment. Kayla Harrison entered the conversation with a direct call-out. 7 words. That's all it took to ignite a global debate. She challenged Dakota openly, setting up what could become one of the biggest fights in women's MMA history. And Dakota didn't hesitate. She fired back immediately, accepting the challenge with confidence. This is where things get truly exciting. Harrison brings elite Olympic-level grappling. Dakota brings devastating Muay Thai striking. Grappler versus striker. Power versus precision. It's the kind of matchup fans dream about. And beyond the styles, there's something bigger at stake: legacy. Both fighters represent different eras, different paths, and different futures for the sport. A clash between them wouldn't just be a fight, it would be a defining moment. And that brings us to where we are now. The sport is changing. New stars are rising. Old legends are speaking out. And the business side of MMA is under more scrutiny than ever before. Ronda Rousey opened the conversation. Dakota Ditcheva is carrying the future. Kayla Harrison is chasing greatness. Everything is colliding at once. The only question is, what happens next? Will the UFC respond? Will these super fights actually happen? Or will politics and contracts get in the way? One thing is certain: this story is far from over. The tension is real, the stakes are massive, and the entire MMA world is watching closely. So now it's your turn. Who do you think is right? And who wins the battles ahead? Because in this sport, everything can change in a single moment.